I will have a heart attack if it doesn't. I think it will, but there we go.
Yeah,
it has connected, which means we are live. We're actually 2 minutes early. Like, I am never early on these things, and I always
grab some water.
Yeah. Please do get some water. So we're going to kick off in just a couple of minutes. We'll let everyone join and get on board. We've got currently, I think it won't, I'm not even sure. Oh no, you can see this. I think you can. There's about 55 people in the room currently. We had 1,200 signups, everyone. This is absolutely crazy. I was not expecting this many people to be eager, but I'm very happy that they are, because we have a great session today. So we'll give it, like I said, everyone a minute or two to join, and then we'll kick straight off into the session. And yeah, please, I've dropped a comment there in the chat. If you're there, let us know where you're watching from. It's always good to see where people are. I'm going to say calling in, but you're not calling in. Where you're watching from? I don't know. What's the terminology that works these days? We've got Oman, we've got people from the US, we've got Portugal. I'm here in Berlin. Ness, who's our expert today, she's in Amsterdam. Stella, where are you located?
Also Portugal.
Oh, yeah. Also Portugal, that's right. Freiburg. It's nice to see people from all over calling in. And we're going to be quite punctual, being that I'm now in Germany. I need to go with the German vibes and be on time. So we're going to kick off. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We are here today with Ness and Stella. Ness is our expert. She's going to be taking us through Claude Cowork. It's going to be amazing. And I'd love for her just to tell you, if she's ready, a little bit about her and what she does.
Hey folks, can you hear me? Because I just changed microphone output. Okay. I'm Vanessa Monsequeira. I'm a former VP of People. I've spent the chapters of my career between tech and the people space. And most recently, I left a Series B energy scale up because I led the AI rollout and I drank the Kool-Aid. And so I'm doing this full time now, is helping CHROs, VP of People and executive teams to think about how to roll out AI from the full spectrum. And I've gone hard on Claude, so it's my love tool, and I'm happy to share it with you today.
Oh, I'm actually so excited for this session, because despite being in this space and using Claude every day, I'm not the power user that I need to be, and there are things that I just don't know. And so I'm really excited for what we've got going on. And we've got Stella here. She is product specialist from Remote. They're our wonderful sponsor today. They make these sessions happen, and I'm very thankful that they're here sponsoring. We're going to see a little snippet about Remote, what it does, how cool their product is, and Stella, you're going to take it away now and show us all of the cool stuff. So it'll be about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll jump straight into the body of what we've got going on today.
Awesome. Yes, very excited. Okay, let me share my screen and I'll tell you guys a bit more about Remote. So super excited to meet you all. And what I wanted to focus on today, since we're talking about AI, is one use case we've made for Remote in our business that we realized in our product, and it's particularly applying to performance reviews, where AI has changed the game for us, and we've been able to process nearly 2,000 performance reviews in less than 48 hours, which is a bit crazy, and get those calibrations and the compensation changes done by the end of the week as well. And that's all thanks to AI as well, and the product we've built. So I'm super keen to kind of walk you through what we've made at Remote with our product Perform, and also kind of how AI has helped with that as well. So we'll start off with a little bit about us at Remote. So we are a global employment operating system. So everything you need to hire, manage, and pay your people across the world. And obviously our people team are incredibly lucky because they can put their finger in the air and kind of go, I have a problem, I want to solve it, and our product team will kind of run and do that. And the problem in this case was performance reviews, which I know are incredibly painful at a lot of companies, and you'll probably know that pain. And what we wanted to do was kind of go back and deconstruct how we run performance reviews. A big pillar of this was doing it in real time. This was to reduce the amount of surprises, both at the employee level, like, you know, being really shocked by your performance review being higher than you thought, lower than you thought, at the manager level, and also at an executive level of kind of having a AE, for instance, get a pay rise and a 5-star performance review and then not hit quota the next month. So fewer surprises, continuous feedback. Feedback often happens in calls on Slack, and we weren't able to capture that feedback. It was this sort of slightly static, twice a year kind of process. And finally, participation, getting people to actually take part in performance, reflect on their performance, share it with others, like building that muscle of actually reflecting and having accountability for your performance. So those are the pillars we built around. And next, I'm going to show you the product we made, which is the most exciting part. So if I take you through to here, let me share this tab. I'm going to show you a few parts of this. This is just the Perform product at Remote. So we're starting here with this HR admin view that would be most of what you folks would have if you were using Perform. And I'll walk you through a little bit about how a cycle looks and how to create a performance view. So in here, you'd have your performance review. You're able to get all that data on relative completion and able to see each individual reflection. You can also similarly do the calibration. You can set custom calibration groups. So maybe you don't calibrate by department or seniority. Maybe you have really specific people you want to calibrate. You can set that custom and apply that to all your reviews. So you're not adding people again and again. That was a huge pain for us. So that's a kind of little view of like the data you get from your performance views. Obviously, this is very high level with my 5 minutes, but I also want to quickly show you how you kind of build one. So this is supposed to be as kind of simple is beautiful as possible. And I am not an HR person, but learning how to build it here, you've got the manager, you can choose who you want to, which people you want to be reflecting, managers, self-reflections, or peers, things like that. You can set the period that you want to run the performance review, and this is super flexible in terms of the questions you want to ask, whether you want free text, whether you want multi-select. We wanted it to be super flexible to each business and what these relative scales mean for you and the performance kind of process and calibration you've created. So this is a little view of how that looks from an HR admin side to play around with. This is where the AI comes in. So for employees, I'm an employee here, I would see a page like this where I can give and receive feedback between my colleagues and kind of have it, I think of this as like a pinboard of my progress, right? I can see feedback that others have given me, feedback that I've given to others, my manager has given me, and I can also have this little area where I can capture my own goals and my own notes on how I'm tracking towards those goals quarter on quarter. And similarly, I can also capture feedback from Slack. So we have a direct integration where when I get a shout out on Slack, that will send straight into Perform. And all of this data really helps when it then comes around to actually doing my performance review. And this is really similar for the manager as well. Really similar view. So again, like a pinboard on the right, I've got all this information about my past reflections, what I did last performance review, the feedback that I've given and received, the notes, everything from Slack. So that when it comes to performance review, I'm not kind of thinking, I can barely remember what I had for dinner last night, let alone how I performed in the last 6 months. I'm able to use AI to kind of bring all that data input together and write a performance review that actually reflects that continuous feedback I've captured over the last months. So for instance, I might go in here, write a little bit about my performance over the last 6 months and use AI to improve that writing and polish it and give something that is more digestible to my manager. So this is a really similar view for our managers as well. And this is a really high level kind of presentation, obviously, but just to kind of share a little bit about what results we then saw, because this is really the impact of using Perform for our organization. So for the first time ever, we've been able to have predictive performance analytics, which has been really game changing for our business. So it means that the CFO can look through compensation and predictively forecast changes to compensation across the organization. It means we have less cases of unlawful dismissal because of the amount of data we have and the thorough continuous performance records we're able to capture in Perform. It was really, really good for participation, particularly with that kind of pinboard element of people giving and receiving feedback. We had a 95% completion rate across 1,800 employees, and 94% of those people also used AI, which is what we're talking about today and why I really wanted to focus on this use case and this product from Remote, because AI across the organization saved us 7,300 hours. And between Monday and Friday, we're able to go from performance review starting to processing those compensation changes and announcing promotions by the Friday. We've obviously released this to customers. This is able to buy Perform and have seen really similar results across our customers, really simplifying and making that performance process happen in real time. So super proud of this product, super excited to share it with you all. And if you want to learn more about remote in general, this is just one of our products for global employment. You can find us in the Stacked Marketplace and get a 20% off offer, or you can reach out to Andy Molina. Jesse will share his details afterwards, and he can connect you with someone from the remote team directly. That is all from me. I'm super excited to see more about AI and HR today. And yeah, over to you, Ness and Jesse.
Thank you so much, Stella. That was great. I haven't seen actually the depth of the platform on that module, so thank you for sharing. And as you mentioned at the end, Stacked is my HR tech database. You may know it, you may not know it. Remote is a partner, so you can go there, have a look about their product, and if you find Remote through Stacked or through this webinar, you can mention it and you get that 20% off. I get nothing for that. I don't get commission. So there's really like, I don't care if you do it or not. If you are interested in Remote, I want you to go and reach out. You can talk to Andy. You'll get a follow-up email where you'll be able to connect with him and learn more about that offer. So thank you so much, Stella. You're welcome to stay, or you can drop out. You can watch on the YouTube side as you like. And we are now going to jump into the main session. So we have, like we said, Ness here. She's going to take us through all sorts of things to do with Claude and Claude Cowork and how we can use it and how to think about it, how we can be critical in how we use our tooling as well, which I think is really important. We are focused on people who haven't used Cowork or would like to know more about Cowork. It is not going to, you're not going to leave here being the expert who can do everything in Cowork, right? You're going to be, we're dipping our toes in, we're making sure that you understand the compliance and the security risks, especially around HR use of Claude and Cowork. But it is going to be really helpful. For me, it was like mind-blowing, like some of the stuff that I've been doing with Claude. So I think that being said, I'll hand over to Ness, who's going to let you know a little bit more about what the session's going to deliver. And she's going to kick off. We're going to show, by the way, we will show the screens very, very soon. Sometimes people want us to jump straight in, but we like to give a bit of context first. So bear with us. It's only a couple of minutes, and then we're going to see a lot of like actual.
It's all going to be demo, folks. So,
all demo.
Yeah, I think let's jump into who this is for. I think just reiterating, if you're a HR professional within an organization, I also know a few people have reached out that there'll be HR consultants that might be working through multiple organizations. This is for you. It's also for you if you're not in HR, I'm going to be honest, because all of the skills are applicable. What you'll know by the end, when Jessie and I talked about this, there's a lot of these webinars and we wanted it to really be where you feel safe because there's so many of these new words and screens, and Claude is changing, no jokes. Claude Cowork launched only a few months ago, and they're shipping new features, especially for Cowork, almost weekly, and new courses. So we're going to go slowly. So if you're a bit more advanced, stick with us. I'm going to kind of layer it as we go through. So by the end, you'll know things like simple things or terms like what's an MD file, an MCP, how do you use scheduled, what is dispatch, what is a connector, and then how do we do a nice little case study to bring it all together. There's some cool pieces. Like Jessie said, what you won't leave, you're not going to be a whiz-bang masterful person. We're also being really careful that we're not going to show full HR use cases, and we'll let you know why. At the moment, Claude is in its beta phase, and Jessie, feel free to jump in because I know you've been doing more research on this. It's only just been launched. And so if you're a HR professional right now within an organization, you really have to ask yourself these three questions. Do you have an enterprise Claude grade account with your company's data agreements? Has your IT and legal team signed this tool off? And are you clear on what data is being sent to Anthropic servers? Because to use Claude Cowork, you have to download the desktop app. So if anyone goes onto Claude in their browser, you won't see Claude Cowork. You have to download it on your desktop app, and then it downloads a virtual machine. And currently there's no logs to say what's going to that virtual machine. So we just wanted to put that really careful caveat. You know, we're drinking the Kool-Aid. We love this tool, but it would be so remiss of us to go, yeah, go for gold, even if you've got an enterprise account. So please, please, please. Sounds boring, but I was best friends with my IT and security buddies at my last company. It's so important. This isn't a whoopsie daisies. This is you want to kind of be really conscious of.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we're really conscious of when we do these sessions, especially on AI tooling. There's a lot of hype. People tell you you're going to learn and you can do everything, and you can do so much with these tools. They are very powerful, but that doesn't mean that we skip all the steps that we should go through around safety. And I think that Cowork, if you go to its website, it says it's just launched in January. It's still in research mode. They don't always know how it will respond. It says here, Cowork is a research preview with unique risks due to its agentic nature and internet access. So it is agentic. They don't know sometimes that it might do something it shouldn't do. Of course, there's lots of guardrails, but really be thoughtful about the fact that, yes, you give it permission to certain folders. Yes, there's guardrails, but at the end of the day, it is very new. It's only March. It's been out for like basically 2 months. So I just want to make sure that we reiterate, don't be throwing HR data just willy-nilly into these tools, okay? Even if you have an enterprise account, still be in touch with your IT teams around how to use that and how to be secure. Now, that's our caveat. We're going to jump past that now, and we're going to get into the tool.
Yeah. Alrighty, enough of talky. Let's get typey. So I'm going to go straight away and share my screen 2. So I don't know who on this webinar has Claude or doesn't have Claude, so I'm not going to assume any knowledge. So at the top here, you have chat, you have Cowork, and you have code. If you listen to other or read other things on LinkedIn, it's like, okay, chat is what you use for thinking, and Cowork is like your colleague, and code is to, develop code in different pieces. I think Jessie and I have had real honest chats around this, and I think Claude and people are saying that because they want to push you towards Cowork. And like, I am a Cowork fangirl, and I'm saying that. But the capability, in all honesty, between chat and Cowork is blurring. So now I'll talk about skills and agents. There are skills, and you can carry over memory in chat as well. So there is that the lines are blurring, but Cowork is an extremely strong tool that can work with folders, and it can be completely autonomous. And I'll show you how. So there's a way to get more out of Cowork than simply using chat. And that's what we're going through, because a lot of people are using Cowork like chat, and chat is awesome. But if you're going to use Cowork and download this virtual machine on your laptop, it's good to know what you can actually get out of it. So let's go through that. Oh, sorry,
I think that's also the difference, right? Like chat is very powerful. Chat can do a lot of things. Chat can automate. The step to Cowork is that it can do things autonomously. So it can automate, but automate autonomously, and it is a lot more powerful. But a lot of the use cases people have, you can do in chat. So we are going to, obviously we're focused on Cowork, but we want to highlight that, Claude is a powerful tool regardless, right? And so there is safer ways to maybe do tasks.
Yeah.
But again,
and sometimes Claude kind of tells there was a little fib. Like yesterday, I was like, hey, Claude, give me a simple table of what's the difference between chat and Cowork. And it said, oh, chat can't, link to different connectors and different external tools. But I was like, clearly you're wrong, because in chat, I created a whole Asana board in chat, and it created it in Asana. So you just be careful and like really dig into some of this stuff, but we're going to show you how now. So before we go into the full demos, let me explain what some of the things are on this screen. It's quite simple. Chat.
Could you zoom your screen a little bit if possible, or make it bigger? I don't know if it's possible, but
it's a full screen. Let me see.
Maybe not. If not, then don't worry.
Actually, let me go. Is that better?
Slightly. Yeah, maybe that's a bit better. Yeah.
Okay. So then that's how you toggle between chat, Cowork, and code. So we're in Cowork. And let me take you through. So here you can press new task, search. I'm going to take you through an example of schedules where you can schedule like briefings and autonomous tasks. This is Dispatch. It was released literally last week, where you might see, if you have Claude on your phone, you would never see Cowork. Now, Cowork doesn't work on your phone like you can use chat on your phone. However, you can dispatch work to your machine and get something working autonomously on your machine. So that's quite new, and you can set it like I've set it up. I'll show you. The latest features that Claude Cowork has, this wasn't there like in the first month, was ideas and customize. You had to do some of these funky things, but ideas gives you, as it says, ideas of what you can do with Cowork. And don't get overwhelmed by all the things. I'm going to show you what they are, but there's a whole lot of ideas. If you're like, I don't know where to start, they've made it easier for people to just get going. So that's what ideas is. And then customize is where you might have kept hearing, oh, skills. I'll take you through what some of these things are. So what a Claude skill or a skill is basically is a reusable set of instructions for a specific task. You write it once and Claude follows that every single time. You stop having to explain the same instructions again and again. So think of it in a HR context. Instead of a briefing for every new hire on Monday,
Why has the screen done that?
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know why your screen's gone small now.
Maybe
you could unshare and share your screen again, because I just want it to go big again. I don't know why it's sitting in the corner. Riverside streaming. Why do you do that? Let's see what it does.
Let's go again. Share.
Why is it there? I don't. Oh no, good. Okay, we're good.
So like the skill is basically a reusable set of instructions. So, you know, imagine just you have a new person onboarding to your team. Instead of repeating the same thing again and again, it's just a repeatable asset that you send an instruction to, and it will always follow that set of instructions. We're going to build all of this and go through it. I just want to help you navigate. And then connectors. So connectors are, as the suggestion would be there, is ways to connect to other tools. And you might have heard this concept called an MCP. So how does it connect to all of these tools? So an analogy I like to use and I've got one here, is anyone who travels to different countries, it might send you nutty that every country has like a different energy socket. And so then you have to have all of these, I've got these, like all of these different energy sockets to connect to all these tools. An MCP is, think of it as a universal adapter. So now Claude can have access via an MCP to all of these different tools. So the way that you can connect
it gets connected, but through your own, you give it permission. You have to connect it, you have to click it. I want to give you permission to access this tool, right? So it's not just connecting it.
So yeah, 100%. I'll show you two levels. So one is the permission to connect it. And so you can browse, you go plus browse connectors. It will give you a whole host of different connectors, you know, that you can go through. And then when you connect it, not only does it give you, do you give it permission to connect to that tool, but you can give it permissions within the tool. So as you can see here for my Asana, I said, oh, I need to approve it manually every time you do a task. Or I can say blocked, you shouldn't be doing preview project creation, or just always allow it. So there's like 2 layers of securities within your connectors as well. So there you go. We've got ideas, customize, and I'm going to come to plugins much later. But I think the key thing when we do the demo is the skills and the connectors. Something to also understand, because we're going to go into this soon, is what an MD file is. So a Markdown file, let me show you one, because we're going to go into this. A Markdown file, is, let me just go here. So I'm going to show you all this in a second. So this is an MD file. What you'll see is it's a simple plain text document with light formatting. There's no hidden code, there's no fonts, there's no metadata. So Claude reads it like a clean notepad. So with a Word or a PDF or a PowerPoint, which you can still use, Claude has to go through all the formatting. Claude has to go through all the formatting and read it first. Whereas this is just a lot cleaner and easier. So think of it as the difference between a PowerPoint and a single A4 document with clear, clean points. So you'll probably hear this a lot, MD files. That's why like a lot of these technologies prefer to just read a simple Markdown file. So I'll show you how to create these. And you can, when you're in Claude, you can instruct it to create an MD file. You don't have to go and create an MD file by scratch.
It knows the structure of what to do, right? And it just means that it's easy computer readable files in the structure in which you're putting the data, right? So it's the same data, it's just structured differently. Nothing to be, if you read it, you'll also be able to read it and understand what's in there. If you can zoom, people are saying they can't see the screen very well. I don't know if it's possible to zoom within the
quickly change share because I'm on one of my second screen. So let me just do a little swapsy here.
Just make sure that everyone can see because.
Okay, I think it's just the form factor on a larger screen. So no worries. Let's just go back. Sorry, folks. Good thing is you haven't missed like a whole lot. It's a very simple user interface, which we love. Share screen. Let me know. Entire screen. Screen one. Oakley dokley.
And someone asked, is that on Claude or external file created on the computer that we attach to Claude? So the MD file, like.
Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to go through all of this and we're going to actually create some of the core MD files now. So can people say, is that better for you? If you can just pop in the chat, if you can see the full screen and that feels better.
Let's see. They'll give it feedback in a second. There's a 30-second delay, so we'll just keep going.
No, let's keep going then, and hopefully you can see things a lot better. But now what I also need to do is I've got my little run sheet happening here. So give me a little tick here. Sorry, folks, because I had to change screens. And as you can see, I've got like a little script for today so we don't faff around. All right, brilliant. So you should be able to see that. So what have we gone through? We've gone through the user interface, which you hopefully can see better now, new task search, scheduled, dispatch, ideas generation, customize. One last thing to go through is to set things up for success. You go to your bottom here, wherever it says there, I'm on a pro plan, you can have max plan. You do need to have pro or max plan to use Cowork. Yeah,
which is paid. So again, if you're using this privately, you can pay for it, obviously, and use it on your private laptops. Yeah. If you are at work, that will be something at work. Your IT security team and your internal admin will be setting up and allowing you to have access to. And so obviously you wouldn't pay for it yourself, but you shouldn't be buying Claude and using it on your private, on your work laptops, right? And paying for it yourself and using that and installing it on your work laptops. Even if you have the permission, some companies don't restrict you, some do. So be doing this on personal laptop if you're not using enterprise plans. And again, being careful, noting that when you install this on your desktop, it is installing a virtual machine in your local, like your computer. Of course, you're restricting access, but again, you need to make that decision that you want to do that and have that on your laptop, right? That you're all informed before you just download and install something.
So last bit, like I said, we go to your name, settings, and then go to Cowork. And in here, you can put in global instructions. So things like your writing rules. I don't like M dashes, and that's pre-AI. I like Oxford commas. So stuff like that, like how the writing patterns output. So I want things in MD files. I want them in Google, like a Google Docx when it's client-facing deliverables or PowerPoint presentations. But then, Jessie, this is where most people stop, and also safety files, because
Ness, not even where they stop, where I have not even done this for myself.
Okay, do this part. We'll share this at the end. I'm going to share a lot of the files and things, so you can either screenshot or we're going to share them to you.
Yeah, we're going to send a link in the follow-up email. You'll all get that. You can then download all the files and stuff, okay? And you'll be able to see the replay. We'll have it available for everyone who's signed up, so you'll be able to watch it back as well and connect it with the files and do your setup.
All the bits. So let's kind of move through, because I want to show you the actual demos, but I also want to put some safety rules, like never delete files. Like AI does some things that we can't even see because it's doing some magic in the back end. So you've got to give it the instructions, always confirm the output location. I have a whole different architecture on my desktop, etc., etc. And then you press save. But most people stop there. So let's get into the demo now of how you can use, I hate these, like, use Claude Cowork 99% better than everyone else. But it is kind of like that, because one, if most people haven't done this, that's your first leap forward. Let's take another leap forward. So if you've got Cowork open, work through this with me. Otherwise, you can watch it on replay. I'm going to go back to the desktop here. Oops, daisies. And the first thing I'm going to get you to do is close all your windows, Ness. I've cleaned up my desktop, but I created this folder called Claude Cowork Demo because I have my own Claude Cowork file. So right now, if you need to do that for yourself, create a new folder and call it Claude Cowork. Okay, and I'll show you why. And this is the difference between chat and Cowork. And what we're going to do is we're going to create some master files. We're going to create a Claude master file, an MD, and let me show you what's in that. And once again, we're going to send you all the architecture for these files, and you don't have to create them from scratch. You create them in Claude, but I think the structure of these is really good. So let me show you the Claude MD that I have. So it says a little bit about, always you need to give in these sort of files a little bit around what the file, the description is. So this is a master file. Read this first every session. So for me, every single session that I run then on Claude, it reads through these specific instructions so it knows what to do, as opposed to chat where it might not read like a Claude MD. All other file, and so read this master file and all other files linked below. So say you are, well, you're not, say you are, you're a HR professional. If you're allowed to do these files in that space, then you create different files underneath for employee profile, like employee archetype profiles, different projects. So another one is who I am. So we did a little bit around this in the settings, but you can go deeper. And I'll show you. So what we're going to ask it to do is read the About Me MD, which you'll create, and I will show you for full context on my role, background, and what I'm responsible for. So you're giving Claude this richness instead of having to tell it every single time. I'm going to be honest here. When I used to use a different technology, OpenAI, ChatGPT, I would just feel like I'd write the same thing again and again. And that was just my laziness. Like, I'm a VP of people doing blah, blah, blah. I was like, Ness, what are you doing? Just automate this. So
yeah, and I did the same. Everybody, I did the same. I had a little bit of stuff about me, and I realized that it was just like not enough to give it the context. So I was constantly adjusting all my outputs constantly. I'm like, this is not optimizing. So highly recommend you do these steps. It takes time. I think it took me 4 hours last night.
Of that, yeah. Sorry, you were doing a different one.
No, I was just saying that it took me ages to just like get my tone of voice for how I write and things like that. It took me ages to set it up. 4 hours, right? But now I've got it. Don't have to worry about it now. It's done.
And that's doing something really deep. Like these will probably take you 10 minutes to start with, but it'll save you a lot of time. And then I'll show you how you can keep refining them through Claude. You don't have to keep going to the MD file. So who, me, how I work, your working style, how you think, how you make decisions, how you want Claude to communicate with you. Because I see a lot of people getting frustrated at the technology, not giving them the right outputs. But someone smart said this, a lot of this like chat, a lot of these LLMs and these agents, almost like having a graduate employee. And imagine shouting at a graduate for not understanding something when you haven't given it the proper instructions. So take time to give it the instructions. This might also be as like a people professional, your current world. So your key active projects, your key deadlines, your key pressure points, you've written that. So you've given it context. People that matter. So you will have these in different files, which I'll show you in a second. And then your stakeholder. So you might have employee profiles or your key stakeholder as well. Key people, how you describe them. So what you're saying to Claude is go and read these 4 files for context every time, and I'll show you them and we'll give you templates. And then I've added some things. So always apply these rules. I hate em dashes. I haven't put this here. I like Oxford commas. I don't like when Claude's like, and here's the thing, or what do you think about these? The rhetorical questions. I don't like filler words. So I've given it some of my writing style that I like. The tools I use, I can probably put a few more in here, to be honest. And then this is something that a lot of people don't always put in, is how to start every session. So I want Claude to read all the linked files in this thing. I want it, if a file is missing, I don't want it to hallucinate and make assumptions. I want it to flag it to me before proceeding. I want it to ask clarifying questions if my prompt is shitty and my task is ambiguous. I don't want it to ask me clarifying questions if it's a really clear instruction. Don't waste time, don't waste tokens, don't be wasteful. For simple instructions, just execute it. However, when there's consequential actions, sending, deleting, publishing, updating, I want it to show me a little plan and confirm my action before being fully autonomous. So I'm telling it, here's how you work, here's how I want safety. And then here's something that not a lot of people do, is every time anyone has been in a chat or this context window, you know, sometimes you're like, no, mate, you haven't got that right, Claude, or whatever technology you're using. I prefer this style, or don't write like this, or this is the actual, you used the wrong name, or you used the wrong stakeholder profile. So what I want it to do is, before ending every session, summarize any of the flags that came up, if any of the priorities or projects change. And then I want it to actually go in, because it has access to the folder, which I'll show you, and go in and make those updates in all of these files. So then it has the context for next time. Because imagine that wastefulness is you've worked with Claude in a whole discussion and you've told it all of the corrections. If you don't instruct it to put it back into these master files, it does carry over context to the next chat, but you just want to have something where you don't need to keep repeating yourself. So I think that's a nice little addition, how to train this at the end of every session. So
Ness, there's a couple of questions coming in. I'll just see if there are things that we can cover. All these specifications would be saved as separate master files or in one.
So
also,
this one is just, let me just show this because I think people will keep getting a bit confused. That is one, the master document, and then there's these different MD files. So once again, we'll share this with you.
And another question, do we add these files in the instructions of the project or the chat, or in every opened new task in Cowork, or like what do you have to do to like make sure it utilizes these files?
So then there will be, like, you'll say prompt words. So, go up. For me, this is a little bit beyond this 101, but a lot of it depends on the file architecture. For now, we've just done Claude Cowork demo. If you're, say, running a project, you might want to do a different folder structure. So there's a name of a project. So you might have context, stakeholder for different projects, but your working style would be the same, and Claude and About Me would probably be the same, right? So that's a deeper, and I'm going to be running a course on AI for all of these things for beginners if you're interested. But for now, just think, we're going to go through a live demo. So maybe I think some of this will clarify itself.
Yeah. I think let's try get to that, because I think people are keen to, because I think it's confusing, right? Otherwise, I mean, it's not confusing.
But I think, like I said, we're going to layer it. So first you need the building blocks and the architecture to get the most out of it. And then we'll see the magic of the execution, where most people are just using a simple one-off chat. This will give you repeatability. So what happens, and I want to show you these files because the whole demo we're doing is on a summer campaign that I've made up. So About Me, there's a random person it's made up, Maya Chen. She's working as a marketing manager for a company. What Maya is responsible for, my background, what I'm focused on right now, what a good day looks like for me. Clear priorities first thing, work that ships by the end of the day, no surprises from stakeholders, and I want to be out of the office by 6. What slows me down? So it's kind of giving a bit of context. So that's the summer campaign that we're doing in this demo.
And just for context, we're specifically not doing a very HR flow, because we're concerned that if people jump into this and just skip through to like the demo session, they're going to see a HR workflow and they'll miss all of the context we gave around security. So we're trying to make sure that these are relevant and they're still useful, and you'll see how it can be useful for HR tasks, and we'll talk through how it can apply to HR. But we didn't want to give anyone the illusion that this is something they should just jump in and do in the HR context with personal data. Okay, so we will talk how you can apply it in a HR context, how you can use it as HR professionals, but we're using a case that is not specifically HR for that purpose. So I hope everyone's understanding of why we're doing that. We're just much more on the front of being careful than just, hype, right?
Yeah. So what I'm going to suggest, folks, is stick with me for the next 13 minutes. I'm just going to go through full demos because I think a lot of your questions will be clarified, because the brain always goes the next step forward. So let me get through the next steps. So what I'm showing you, these MD files, like I said, whether you're a HR professional or otherwise, what we'll do is send these to you. What's not important is the detail right now. It is the headings that you can then create for yourself for similar work. So the context, that you might want to put key deadlines, the current pressure. So then you can use these in Claude to help you create the MD files. But I'm just giving you a flavor so you can see how this works in the demo. So my current world for this project. The next one is key stakeholders who are made up. So Maya's boss is actually Jessie. She's the chief people officer. Surprised you didn't know this.
Amazing.
We have Tom, made up person, senior designer, Lena, junior content creator, and for a little bit about the client, the type of brand voice they like, the style of the client. So all of these things that then can become repeatable for this campaign, this summer campaign that we're running. And then working style, once again, the main important thing is, this is applicable across things, is how I think, how I make decisions, how I want Claude to communicate with me when drafting anything for me, what to do, what I hate. Like, I cannot stand on other LLMs that shall not be named, just like, that's a great idea, and saying everything's amazing. I'm a straight shooter, so I need to tell Claude how to work with me. So if you remember when we went into the global settings of Claude preferences, this is more like a larger version of that. So then you create, now you can see two things, folks. Working style, Claude and about me, are somewhat static, somewhat. They might change over time. Context and stakeholders are like projects. So you can create an extra folder, but then you'd have to change the Claude instructions for different folder architecture for these projects. So this is where I'm saying, if you take some time, you can actually, once you have these MD files, just chuck it into Claude and say, hey, I want to use this file structure for my own context and create a working style file for myself. Claude, help prompt me to create my own working style, and it has a bit of an architecture. Quite frankly, if you don't have this MD file, you can just say, help me create a working MD file, Claude, and help use best practice, and it will help you do that. But I think let's now go into Claude and see why Claude is a bit different from chat, because of how you use the folder. So now that we know we're doing this campaign, let me show you one of the first things that I want done. Actually, what I want to do for this campaign, because remember my working style, I want to get out of the office by 6. I'm Maya, and I really want to have a morning briefing, because otherwise I have to go into Asana and I have to go into my calendar. I just want to tell you to tell me what to do. So I'm going to create a new briefing. You can do this in 2 ways. You can go into ideas and say, create a briefing. I think the better is just going to scheduled, and these are automated tasks. You can do this for project updates. You can do this for many, many things. One example is for this summer campaign, here's what I would like to do. I do want a daily briefing summer campaign. So that's what I'm going to name it. And this is the prompt. Summarize description. I want it to summarize everything. Summarize tasks from Asana and GCal for summer campaign. So what I'm saying then is every morning at 8:30, pull my Asana task due today from the summer campaign launch project and give me a prioritized briefing. Asana task due today. That was, it should have also been from my GCal. Asana task due today. Look at my GCal Google Calendar for everything labeled spring campaign, and tell me what is coming up in the coming week. So instead of manual, because you can manually do this even through chat, but I want this to be automated daily. So I say I want it frequently daily, and I want it at 8:30, and then it's going to give me, it's going to be like my virtual assistant, for example. You can go into more options, and I want it to save. So every morning for this summer campaign, it's going to send me what's happening in this area.
And so if you're a HR, let's say consultant, or you have your own business and you do HR stuff for businesses, potentially you want to use this to, help yourself in your own business and say, okay, I want to schedule, I want to see the summary of what I've got going on today before I, start my day, whatever it might be, right? Obviously making sure it's not connected to any, data from companies you're working with, but if it's your own business and it's your own stuff, that can be really, really helpful. And there was a question here.
Is it okay if we do questions at the end? Because I think we're time for the rest of the demo.
Yeah, true.
I think people aren't going to get through. Like, I want to show you the meat of this.
And so, just one thing, everyone, we will capture all your questions, put them in the chat. If we can't get to them, I'll send out a file afterwards with the answers. Okay.
Yeah. So another one I want to show you, because what this was showing you was the power of scheduled and the power of connectors, because the only way it's going to be able to do that is because it's connected to my Asana and my GCal, and it will pull that out for me as well. So the next thing you can do is I want to show you another power of the connector is I have connected my Fireflies, which is my AI note taker. So I'm going to say new task. And what I actually want, I'm not going to work in the project yet. I'm going to show you the project that I showed you that we set up on our laptop very quickly. So I'm doing a keynote speech on the 28th of April. And so I'm working with the speaker coach. And the other day we met. And so that was recorded on Firefly. So I'm just going to say, hey, Claude, go and fetch that transcript. It already knows it's from Fireflies, but you can put in Fireflies because it's the connector from my call with the speaker coach. This was a model we used together. Review the transcript deeply, summarize the key points that will help me construct my keynote speech, and then pull all the actions, because I always promise, oh yeah, I'll do this, into a new Asana project called Keynote Speech and suggest timelines. The talk is on the 28th. I'm going to show you something else here. I think this is quite a simple task, except for the review deeply. And something someone said to me the other day is like, Ness, I've run out of like tokens or credits on Claude again. So you need to choose whether everyone's like, wow, Opus. I use Opus when there's deep discovery work, deep documentation, if I'm doing customer work, if I'm building something, but you run out of tokens or credits a lot quicker. So if I just need this everyday task, you'll save yourself a lot of time and a lot of efficiency by using Sonnet. So choose when you'll use Opus, knowing things run out, and then it says you have to wait till 11 p.m. and you get frustrated. For this, I'm just going to use Sonnet. It's no point using Opus. So once again, let go. And what I want to show you is what's happening. So I've given it some instructions, right? And what it's going to do is in the progress task, it's going to read what's happening and it's going to show me the progress here. And in the working folder, it's going to do a scratch pad. So here you can see this is how it's like a worker showing you what's happening. It's going to fetch my Fireflies. It's going to review my transcript. It's going to extract all the actions. And then it's going to create the Asana project as well. This is what I showed you earlier. I haven't allowed automatic, so I can always allow it. But the first time I put any connector on, remember the connectors, I choose to do a manual allow. You can choose what you want because it does get frustrating and you'll probably just be like allow all the time. But I think it's really important to know, especially if you're using sensitive stuff, to know whether you want to have that human in the loop on that decision or you just want it to do that. Now I know what I'm doing with this. So I'm just going to say always allow. So you can see it's searching, it's gone and found. I don't have to go and faff around and download the Fireflies transcript. It's done it for me. And it's showing me what it's going to do here. So this might take a little while because it's doing some deep analysis. But it's pretty wild what it can do, because I know as when I was a VP of people, one of the things my team would always be backed up on is creating an Asana task, because you have to go and manually do it. Here, someone could either dictate it or they could just write out, do this really simple prompt, or go and find the transcript of what we said, what would happen. And it's just going to save a lot of time. So it's running that command.
Yeah, that's really powerful. I mean, that's one thing I use it for in my business a lot, is all of my calls that I have where I, promise I'm going to do something or say I'm going to follow up, and I have it instantly like pull the transcripts, push it into Notion, update my tickets that I have, close them out when they're done, change the status and do all that stuff. And it's all automatic. And that was my pet peeve. Like you said, always behind on keeping your Kanban boards updated, keeping your tickets updated. Like for me, that as a small business owner where it's more or less just me in the business, this is like a game changer for me to have this admin done for me instantly. Again, my business and nothing crazy going on with my data, so I allow it. But yeah, there's definitely use cases here for everyone in every position, whether it's personally or professionally. There's definitely ways to leverage the tool.
So this is like, you can tell that Cowork takes because sometimes chat will spit stuff out quite quickly. Cowork actually does, I hate to say that AI thinking, it does more analysis, and I also asked it to review the transcript deeply. If you go into Opus, sometimes it will take a little bit longer because the depth of that.
Another thing, Ness, I noticed with Cowork is that my computer's much slower. So it has a huge working file. So if you have a laptop that's rather old or doesn't have a lot of RAM or anything like that, like and space, like it will just, like my laptop daily has that, colorful Mac thinking wheel when it's on. Even if you're not using Claude in the background, it'll be like using the space of your laptop or your computer. So just know that it is like using space when you're using Cowork. So it can make your computer slow if you've noticed that, and then that's probably why.
So as you can see here, it's now moved. It went through steps 1 was the hardest because it was really looking through it. Now steps 2 and 3 are quicker, and you can see the connectors. Initially it was on Fireflies, now it's on Asana. And just the amount of time this would save me. I think sometimes, if you actually look, the velocity or the throughput of work, whether you're on Asana or you're Monday or some other technology, however you manage your work, half the time it gets sloppy because the time it takes to input tasks and deadlines, etc. So this is going to do it, doing a bit more thinking.
It really is doing a good think.
Well, like, at the moment, we're just like, oh man, we're on a webinar, go quicker. But you think how much time it would take you to actually go and analyze this, or even download the Fireflies, put it in the thing, prompt it. I did test this before, so I'm pretty sure it works. So there we go. It's done. It's created the Asana board for me. And for progress, for done. And now I say create the project. So what it's going to do now is use that MCP in the connector. And I will show you my live Asana, view in Asana still being created. Hopefully that doesn't take too much longer, but I'll pull the Asana over. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. Okay, view in Asana. And let's see, hopefully my Asana is telling me keynote speech. That wasn't there before, so it's created that. I obviously need to go and verify the dates. But that was all through the transcript. So that was pretty wicked and wild. Okie dokes. So that was, I just wanted to show you a use case of scheduled, a use case of using a connector. Now let's go back to our campaign. So now what you do here, so this is the difference within chat. Remember, I asked you to create your thing. My thing was on my desktop. So you say either choose a folder. So ours was desktop, Claude Cowork demo. Remember these files. So I want it to now work in this folder with that whole context. You can create different folder architectures. So allow Claude to change files in Claude Cowork demo. I wanted to change files because remember, I want to be able to instruct Claude to update the global MD, update those MD files as well. So I'm not faffing around in those MD files. I just give Claude an instruction. Because it's working in the folder, it all happens quite autonomously. So always allow. Yeah. So then now I've connected it to the file I want it to work in. I've put all of the MD files there. So at the moment, what I would like to do is also create a skill that can help me as well to always work in this area. So we'll go through this super quickly because I know Matt, Bradburn and Jessie are going to run a whole session on creating skills, but I think everyone's talking about the hot thing, which is skills. So you can go to customize skills. You can create skills in a few ways. You can create it with Claude, where Claude guides you on how to create a skill if you don't know how to do it, or you can write instructions. And I'm going to show you, so you can write instructions, or there's a lot of skills libraries now, especially in HR and other spaces. You can go to other skills library and download those skills and upload them. For our summer campaign, I'm going to write a new skill and show you the key parts as well. Here's one I prepared earlier. You don't have to have the MD. I just wanted to prepare for this. Daisies for this. So this is my summer campaign skill. The skill is called Spring Campaign Update. So in that Asana project I want it to give me a weekly status report. Sorry about this. And then this is the important part as well. So what this skill does, you need to give a description of the skill, which is generate structured campaign project update, and uses this every Friday end of day. So you're not doing it manually. And then this is some of the instructions. So when to trigger the skill. So when I say run the weekly command, I just put the command into Claude, or give me a campaign update, or prepare the Friday update. What to pull in. So I want it to check the Asana Spring Campaign launch, look at the Google Calendar, and then afterwards you do the output format. Once again, you can use Claude to help you to build these skills or download them. But I think the key things to remember here is name it, tell the skill what it does. It needs a description, when to trigger it. So what are your like words that you will use to activate the skill, what you want it to do that skill, if you want it to connect to any connectors, and then the output format. Maybe you just say, suggest an output format, but for me, I want a very specific output format in green, amber, red, RAG status, what was done this week, what's coming up next week, risks or blocked, anything from me. And then any of the tone or style rules or what good looks like. And then I say create. And then you can see in my skills section, it's created a summer campaign weekly update. And that file is a bit nicer to read. And then Claude, because I need to do that weekly, Claude is going to do that again and again. I don't need to say, use these instructions to create the summer campaign. So that's a really crash course on creating a skill. Once again, remember, if you're like, Ness, that's a lot, Claude, they've made it so user-friendly that it can actually help you create a skill as well. It can teach you how to do that. So let's go back then to a new task. We've now created a skill. We're working in our Claude demo folder, which is all about this summer campaign. So what we're going to do now, and I hope these work, is I've got a team member, and my team member Tom is a little bit behind on some of the things. So this is a very simple prompt for the purpose of this. And I want to say, hey, look, Tom is behind on the social assets, draft a message to him about it. I would generally do a better prompt than that, but let's just see what's happening. What I want to show you is, once again, it's looking at the progress. It's going into my instructions in Claude. It's looking at, remember, Claude also has my stakeholders, of which Tom is one of them. It's going into the context. It's going into the stakeholder MD, and a scratch pad is where it does its thinking. So imagine if you didn't give any of these things, you'd have to write it out again. Tom is my team member looking after social marketing. This is what happened. And I didn't actually tell Tom the deadline. Remember, I already put the deadlines in the master docs of this project. Claude already knew this because it was already in the context MD and the project MD. So, you can read it. Hey, Tom wanted to just check in on this, giving him the deadline. It's also used all of my tonality and my stylings. Can I just say that even though I tell Claude not to use M dashes, it still does it, which drives me nuts. But that's one example of, it sounds really simple because we've just written an email, and I know different people have ethics on emails, but if you think about the deeper things this can do, because you've set yourself up for success, you're going to get an better output from Claude because you've taken 10, 20, an hour to set up your context files and your stakeholder files as well. You're spending less time prompting because it's in the masters. Now let's try something else. We obviously have a daily briefing on the of the calendar events and the Asana tasks. But just say I didn't schedule that task and I just wanted to know what's happening. Let's give it another prompt. So I wanted to pull all my spring calendar events and today's tasks from the spring campaign in Asana and give me a combined daily briefing. So this is the non-automated schedule version. But once again, because it's got the connectors and it knows everything about my area, that's what it's doing. It's going to pull it.
And I think that, a lot of working with AI, to be productive, it is the setup. So a lot of, if you actually go to all of these, like I've been to a number of Claude, Claude webinars, Claude skills, Claude whatever, 90% of what you're learning is how to set up yourself for success to really gain the efficiencies of how to work with AI, right? Like if you don't have any of these things set up and you just want to skip past and go, well, that's boring, I don't want to do all that setup and I don't want to do all of those things, then you are going to find yourself spending way more time and effort every single task, every single day, and getting worse outputs. So it does serve yourself to actually take the time. It's kind of like any project, always the time up front and the planning and the effort. People find it boring and they want to get into the action, they want to get into the implementation. But even myself, I've skipped over these things, done them, let's say, half well. because I'm like, oh, I don't have time and I just want to get in and do the work. And I'm finding that I'm just going in circles. So I've just spent the time recently to do it, and instant output level up.
Yeah.
Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So what we see here is it's gone to my calendar and pulled all the things like, yep, Jessie and I were prepping for this, some of the Claude Cowork webinar we're on now, et cetera, et cetera. We're beyond the summer campaign. And then it went into my Asana project and pulled all of these things out. And you're like, well, Ness, I can just go into an Asana, but what this does is it brings into all one context window. So people don't go into 100 tools. And I was speaking to a HRIS vendor, and they've actually, most HR tech companies are using an MCP, their global adapter, to plug into Claude, because they know that people don't always go into the technology. So this becomes the main context window. So these are some simple examples. What I've stressed here is we can show you different workflows for HR outside of HR. But what I'm trying to show you is that if you set these contexts, these documents up, and then work within your proper folder, then it will go there. In advanced levels, you can also get all of the output. Say you've developed Word documents, PowerPoints. You can either faff around finding them here, or you can get them all into that folder or a G drive as well. So then that's at the next level beyond this, like a 201, where you start creating better architecture. My final things, because I know I promised you this and we're finishing, is a plugin. So if you go plugins, you can browse plugins, and there's marketplaces for this. And indeed, Claude has created, Anthropic has created a lot of them. And there was, Jessie did such a good post about this. There was this hype of like, Claude created a whole HR department, and it was a plugin, phones. And you have to be careful. So the plugin is, yes, you can automate a lot of things in the human resources plugin, but what a plugin is literally skills and agents. And we haven't covered agents today, but it literally is a whole bunch of different skills. So this is where I want to pump the brakes again and said, this is very sexy and very cool to use. But please, 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 like if you look at all of this compensation data, different onboarding checklists, headcount planning, if you just think about the nightmare that is GDPR and all of this employee data, you want to be sure, you so want to be sure that your IT team and your legal have reviewed that there is a virtual machine on your laptop going over that data, and we don't have clarity of how that's being transmitted to Claude. However, what you could do is you can just say, draft a new hire letter, draft offer, and it says, okay, I want this for an individual contributor, and let's go. You might just use the HR plugin to give you 60 to 70% of it. That's not automated with your employee data, but it does 60 to 70% of the work for you. Why not? That's fine. And then you go and put it in your own work environment and fill the details in, or perhaps you use this document in an enterprise tool you have. But that's one way that you can use plugins. It will give you more prompts. Is it, let's just say, mid-level engineer? They're remote in Europe. Yes, I have the comp details ready. But once again, progress, instructions, it's still using my instructions of who I am and how I like to work. And then it will probably draft me the offer, and I can manage that and download that. So it's done 60, 70% of the work, and then I'll manually put in the rest if I have not checked with my IT team. So that kind of gives you a bit of a whirlwind tour of what we've done. We've looked at all of the demo features. The thing that most people do not do to save themselves a lot of time and don't get as much quality out of it is setting up their Claude MD context files, working styles, and then any architecture about different projects as well. So I think once you do that, a lot of this is a lot easier to get the most out of Claude with. So any final words from me is this is a new technology. Claude is shipping new features literally every other week, and there are trainings on Claude as well that I highly recommend people look into.
Definitely. So if you can go and look at actually Anthropic, they put out, the company that, created Claude, they put out trainings. So they're really good trainings. They're obviously up to date on how the systems work. So definitely, add that to your list of things to do to upskill. And we're going to close out. That was great. I hope that was helpful for everyone to get a baseline of, what is Cowork, what can it do, how to start working with it, and also how to think about it critically and compliantly in the context of your work. So even if we're a HR professional, it doesn't mean we can't personally look and upskill ourselves and play around. You do just need to be understanding of those, guardrails we talked about at the beginning, and then you can start to really, create these skill files, create these MDs, and start to actually leverage some of it to make your life easier. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we want. And even if you can't use it in your work at the current company you're in, they're skill sets that won't be lost. They won't be lost on you. There can't be anything more, this is where we're at now. Can you imagine where we will be in 6 to 12 months? We can't let ourselves drop behind. And that's why we like to do these sessions, to bring everyone up to, a certain level of understanding. So thanks so much, Ness. That was fantastic. And we've got a bunch of questions. We will extract all the questions from the chat. We'll create an answer document and share it around. You'll also get access to Ness will share a link so you can go and download all of the things that she shared, all the files and templates that you can use from her. She's got a course launching to kind of help people get, the basics and go even further than what she's obviously shown here, but to really help people through this. So she'll be sharing that as well. And of course, I'll be sharing Remote's contact details if you're interested in Remote, the platform. As you know, you'll get 20% off if you go through the links that we share. So benefit if you want to use Remote. And that's it, everyone. That's all we have for today. So I hope that was great. I'm going to chuck our LinkedIn links in the chat. There is Vanessa's, mine, and Andy from Remote, who'll be the contact point. And please share yours if you want to connect with everyone here. And if you, connect, we'll obviously connect back. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll probably see you at the next session.